Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
It's been a really long time since we've heard that. That felt really good. So, Shana Tova, as we said, it is a beautiful start to this new year. I want to remind you about a teaching that says, Al tifrosh min hatzibor. You should not separate yourselves from the community. And through no choice of our own, we have had to separate ourselves from one another for the last 6 months. So I want to share how good it feels to be in this room with other people once again, to be here together in community. And I want to acknowledge that our community is far wider than the people here in this room. That some of you are here, and even more of you are still with us out there. You're sending us pictures of us on the big screens in your living room. I even saw one projected in the backyard. It has been so good to know that even when it feels like we're apart, we are still here. We are still together. We are still in community. And we will continue to be together as we carefully move forward in person, as we patiently move forward virtually, and as we openly accept whatever it is that feels right to each one of you as you make your choices going forward in the year ahead. So for those of you who are here in person, I just want to remind you about a few of the protocols for this morning. And I do need to say that we are very serious about these protocols. If we can't adhere to all of this, we won't be able to do this again for Yom Kippur, and we don't want to have to say no. We want this to be successful. We want to continue. So please make sure that you are wearing your mask at all times, and it is covering your nose all the way down to your chin. Nothing that you breathe from should be exposed. All of your air should go into the mask. If you need a break and you need to breathe in a way that's not covered by your mask, that's okay. Get up, go outside, take a breath. It's fine. We'll still be here when you come back. If you need to touch something or do something, you've all been given a little bit of hand sanitizer. Use it liberally. Enjoy that hand sanitizer. It is good for everyone. Oh, my good. Oh, I've got some too. Be like your rabbis. Sanitize. Cantor, yeah, Cantor's getting in on it too. Good. If you need to use the restroom, look what I say to my kids. Can you hold it? Is what I say to my kids. If the answer is no, please go ahead and use the restroom. We will be limiting restroom use to one at a time so that we can sanitize in between. So just keep that in mind as you get up to use the restroom. And if there is a line, make sure you're standing 6 feet apart from one another with your mask on. Lastly, at all times, keep those 6 feet of distance between one another. And that means that schmoozing, which this is not innate for us. It is not. It is hard for us because we are a schmoozy people. Make sure your schmoozing is 6 feet apart as well, and that means no congregating in small groups, which is so antithetical to how we do things. But if we ever want to get to being able to schmooze the way we want to schmooze, we got to schmooze like this for now. So with that, it is good to be in community, no matter how you are joining us this morning. Welcome to this strange new year. We are here, we are doing it together. Let's offer thanks. You can find Psalm 150 on page 135.
Before we begin, Cantor, I have not reminded anyone of this in 6 months. Please make sure your cell phones, both here and at home, are on silent. Please, I know, it's been a while. Oh, it's so nice to see you. I also want to welcome the president of our board of directors, Julie Heimovich, to the Bima, and tell you how wonderful it has been to have 2 great women as president of the congregation this past year, Robin Roeder, now our executive, communal, and chief officer, and Julie Heimovich, our president of the board. And I want to thank the board of directors for enabling us to do this today, to worship as Jews both here and at home, all of us together. Now, hallelujah.
Let's do it.
wonderful words to begin 5781.
Hallelujah, el bekocho, hallelujah, birkia uzo, hallelujah, bigvurotav, hallelujah, kerov kulo, hallelujah, beteka shofar, hallelujah, penevel vechinor, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, betofu machol, hallelujah, beminim ve'ogav, hallelujah, betziltzlei shama. Hallelujah, betziltzlei trua, kol haneshama tehallelujah, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah,
We continue on page 141 with the Chatzi Kaddish.
יתקהל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמד יברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב יאמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לילה ולילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמיכן בעלמה ויאמרו Amen.
Let's stand together as we turn to page 142 for the Baruch Hu.
Barechu et Adonai hamevorach Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed.
We continue with Yotzer Or.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or vorei choshech oseh shalom vorei et hakol or olam beyotzar chaim orot meyofel amar vayehi.
Source of blessings, our eternal God, your power fills the cosmos, shaping light, creating darkness, making peace and fashioning all things. Infinite light is preserved in life's treasure house. Lights from the darkness, said God. It was so. In love, you bring light to the earth and its creatures. Your goodness renews the creation each day. Infinite, varied, and rich are your works, divine artist. All of them wrought with wisdom. The whole earth is teeming with life. Awestruck by the universe, work of your hands, let all life bless you, praise you, and celebrate the beauty of your lights.
אור חדש על ציון תאיר ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות.
Page 150.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Let's be seated and turn to page 152 for the Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Page 161. The Israelites walked into the Reed Sea, 1 foot at a time. What were they thinking about as the water rose up their legs, chilling their hearts, advancing toward their mouths? We continue to walk here now, 1 foot at a time, on our better days, forward. Alone, I cannot reach the far shore without drowning. Somehow, I don't go under. The person to my right holds me up. Something I cannot see holds him up. Blessed is the source of help so often unexpected. I step forward. The sea is vast. Page 164.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. שירה חדשה שמחו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים. יחד כולם הודו וימליכו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל חומה בעזרת ישראל ופרחנו ממך יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
We turn to page 166 and we stand together for the Amidah. If you are home and you're cozy on the couch and standing up doesn't feel like a part of your Mikdash Ma'at, your holy space right now, you may rise spiritually in your heart, whatever it is you do, so that your spirit may lift. Page 166.
Ya la 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 la, ya la la. Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Hagibor ve'hanora el elyon gomel chasadim tovim ve'konei hakol ve'zocher chasdei avot ve'imahot u'mevi geula livnei v'neichem leman shemo be'ahava. Moshiach u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch hu u'baruch shemo,
Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Amen. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechayei hakol atah rav lehoshia. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofech cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato mishenei afar. הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך וברוך שמו,
מחיי הכל.
Please be seated. We'll continue now on page 174 with Unataneh Tokef. Well, I'll have a little more to say about these words next week during Yom Kippur. I just want to say from the outset of this very important and central part of our worship during the days of awe that I am, and I know, I would imagine many of you are feeling a little bit ambivalent about reading these words. For we are about to utter the words, who shall live and who shall die, who shall see ripe age and who shall not, in the year of a pandemic, in a year of senseless death and hatred, and in a year when fires have destroyed so much of God's earth on the West Coast. It's okay to be ambivalent. God hears even prayers that are filled with ambivalence and perhaps a little bit of anger and a little bit of rage inside of ourselves. And so as we read these words, read them both on the page literally perhaps and maybe metaphorically as well, understanding that God is in it with us. God is in the suffering and in the pain and in the illness and in the fires with us. And so Unataneh Tokef begins on page 174. As best you can, let us proclaim the sacred, as Rabbi Mason Barkin said, this awesome and somewhat fearful time. Let us proclaim, page 174. Let us proclaim the power of this day, a day whose holiness awakens deepest awe and inspires highest praise for your dominion. For your throne is a throne of love. Your reign is a reign of truth.
Unataneh Tokef Kedushat Hayom Ki hu norah ve'ayom Uvo tinasei malchutecha ve'yikon bechesed kisecha ve'teshev alav be'emet ve'teshev alav be'emet.
Continue on 176.
ובשופר גדול ייתקע, וכל דממה דקה יישמע, ומלאכים יחפזון וכילו רעדה יוחזון ויאמרו הנה יום הדין לבכות על צבא מרום בדין כי לא יזכו ועיניך בדין
And so a great shofar will cry, Kehilah. A still small voice will be heard. Angels in a whirl of fear and trembling will say, behold the day of judgment, for they too are judged. In your eyes, even they are not blameless. Together, all who come into the world pass before you, like sheep before their shepherd. As a shepherd considers the flock when it passes beneath the staff, you count and consider every life. You set bounds, you decide destiny. you inscribe judgments.
We continue on page 178.
Berosh Hashanah Yikatevu Yom Som Kippur Yechatemun Berosh Hashanah Yikatevu Yom Som Kippur Yechatemun Kama Yavrun Vechama Yibareun Mi Yichye Umi Yamut Berosh Hashanah Yikatevu Yom Som Kippur Yechatemun Berosh Hashanah Yikatevu Yom Som Kippur Yechatemun Mi Yanuach Umi Yanuach Mi Yashkit Umi Torah Mi Yahani Umi Yashir Mi Yahani Umi Yashir Mi Yushpal Umi Yarun Berosh Hashanah Yikatevu Yom Som Kippur Yechatemun Berosh Hashanah Yikatevu Yom Som Kippur Yechatemun.
Together. On Rosh Hashanah, this is written, and the fast of Yom Kippur, this is sealed. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age? Who will be taken before their time? Who by fire? Who by water? Who by war? Who by beast? Who by famine? And who by drought? Who by earthquake? And who by plague? Who by strangling? And who by stoning? Who will rest? And who will wander? Who will be tranquil? And who will be troubled? Who will be calm? And who tormented? Who will live in poverty? And who in prosperity? Who will be humbled? And who exalted? 180.
Uteshuvah, utefillah, utsedaka, ma'avirin et roa agzeira.
We continue now with the Kedoshah on page 184, and together, please stand.
Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam keshem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom ka'katuv al yad anaviecha v'karazel ze ve'amar kadosh 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 Adonai Tzevaot meloch ol haaretz kevodo Adir adirenu Adonai Adonenu Madir Shemcha bechol haaretz. Baruch kevod Adonai mimekomo. Echad hu Eloheinu hu Avinu hu Malkeinu hu Moshienu vehu yashmienu berachamav leinei kol achai ani Adonai Elohechem yimloch Adonai leolam Elohai Zion ledor vador Alleluia ledor vador nagid kol lecha ulenetzach netzachim kedushanecha nakdish v'shivchacha Eloheinu ipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed ki el melech gadol v'kadosh ata baruch ata Adonai HaMelech HaKadosh Amen.
Page 214.
Elohim.
Wait, English first.
Our God, divine presence, whose path our ancestors walked, bless us now with the words first bestowed on Israel in the time of Moses and Aaron, the threefold blessing given us through Torah that joins our hopes with theirs.
Yevarechecha
Yevarechecha
Adonai
Adonai
ve'yishmerecha
Ve'yishmerecha
Ya'er
Ya'er
Adonai
Adonai
panav
Anav
elecha
Elecha
v'yichuneka
Ve'yichuneka
Yisa
Isa
Adonai
Adonai
panav
Anav
elecha
Elecha
ve'yaseh
Ve'yasem
lecha
Lecha
Shalom. May you know God's blessings of shelter and care together. May it be so. May you receive the light of God's kindness and grace.
May it be so.
May you see God's favor and goodness, and may you partake of God's peace. May it be so.
Please be seated. Let's take these moments, this time, whether we are here or at home, to reflect on the year that has passed, to reflect on the words of our service today, and then to think to ourselves the innermost prayers of our hearts and our souls for ourselves, for our families, and indeed for all of humanity. A time for silent meditation.
we continue together asking God to bestow peace, goodness, hope, and mercy upon us. Page 216, Sim Shalom. Sim Shalom. Tova uvracha ba'olam, chen v'chesed, v'rachamim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Kiveyor panecha, natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, Torat chaim ve'ahavat chesed, u'tzedaka u'veracha verachamim ve'chaim v'shalom. בספר חיים ברכה, בספר חיים, בספר חיים ברכה ושלום, ופרנסה טובה. לחיים טובים ולשלום. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
We turn to page 223, and we stand as we open the ark for Avinu Malkeinu.
Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu Chatanu Lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu Chamol Aleinu Ve'alol Aleinu V'Tapeinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and on our families.
Avinu Malkeinu Kale Tever V'Cherev V'Rav Me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu Kale Kol Tzar U'Mastin Me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu, kotvenu b'sefer chaim tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu, chadesh aleinu shana tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu, chonenu v'aneinu, ki ein banu ma'asim, asei manu tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshienu.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, chonenu v'aneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, chonenu v'aneinu, ki ein banu ma'asim. Asei imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Asei imanu, tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, chonenu v'aneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, chonenu v'aneinu, ki ein banu ma'asim.
We stay standing as we turn to page 227 as we begin Seder Kriyat HaTorah, our Torah service for Rosh Hashanah.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kema'asecha. Malechutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai himloch leolam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim, eitiv aviratzonecha, et Zion. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim. Ki v'echad levad patachnu, melech el ram v'nisa, Adon olamim.
Adonai, Adonai, God, compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving, and true, showing mercy to the 1000th generation, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, and granting pardon.
Adonai, Adonai, Rachum v'chanun, Erech apayim v'rav chesed v'emet, Notzer chesed alafim, Nosei avon v'fesha, v'chata v'nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, Elu rachum v'chanun, Erech apayim v'rav chesed v'emet, Notzer chesed alafim, Nosei avon v'fesha, v'chata v'nakeh. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Benocha Shemo, Gadlu l'Adonai iti, Uneromema Shemo yachtav, Lecha Adonai hagitula, v'hagifura, v'hatziferet, v'hanetzach, v'hahod, Tichol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Tichol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Lecha Adonai הממלכה והמנהסה לכל לראש. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו.
Please be seated.
אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו.
I think now would be a very good time to use hand sanitizer. Everyone, I invite you. It was free. Oh, and you at home, please feel free to sanitize as well. Purell. Do you think we get product placement points for that? If I put the Purell bottle up here, you think we'll get a donation? Probably not. Well, today is called Rosh Hashanah. But Rosh Hashanah has many names. God forbid the Jews should just stick with one name. The Torah gives it several names, and the rabbis give it even more names. It's sort of like God. There are somewhere close to 100 names of God in Torah and another 100 mentioned in the rabbinic literature. But one of the other names for today is Yom HaZikaron, the Day of Remembrance. Not the Day of Remembrance that we celebrate in ER in May for Israel, or commemorate, I should say, but the original Day of Remembrance. For today, we begin asking God to remember us and to see each one of us as a unique soul created in God's image. You know, Judaism does not have a word for history. Historia is the modern Hebrew word created 100 years ago by Ben Yehuda and the group of people who sit together creating Hebrew words for things that never existed before the modern state of Israel. But there's no word for history. Jews see our past through the eyes of memory, zikaron, zecher. We remember Shabbat. We remember the Exodus from Egypt. We're told to remember the plagues and suffering. We remember our victories. We always remember the 6 million who were murdered in the Shoah. Where history is part of our intellectual selves, memory is part of both the individual and collective soul of the Jewish people. And so as we live through history in the sense of this last year, as we live in that history and through that history, there is no doubt that one day it will be a memory. And we're seeking answers to questions we've probably never asked before. Questions to which Torah guides us, at least toward insights and experiences and knowledge, and yes, memory of our ancestors. These Jewish archetypes asked similar questions. Their lives are a mirror, a reflection, in which we can find ourselves and know that we're not alone. We are not alone. Questions of Jewish survival during dark times have been asked throughout the ages, and the answers have been found in the struggles and the strivings and the memories, the drama and examples, and even sometimes a little bit of humor and folly depicted throughout our tradition. Our archetype Jacob teaches us of the paradox between living with fear and living in fear. Joseph teaches us that even at the bottom of a pit, we can dream of a better tomorrow. And Isaac, who we're going to hear about in just a few moments, whose name means laughter, teaches us the vulnerabilities of being blind, making him unable to see, but to feel his way through his life. From Ruth, our archetype, we learn courage. Courage to actually leave our home and join and become part of a new family. She is the paradigmatic ancestor archetype of a convert, someone who chooses to become Jewish. And in her lies the courage it takes to make such choice. From Miriam, from the Sea of Reeds, we learn that music and singing and dance, marking the end of 400 years of slavery, that there was no better way to celebrate than through music and dance. From Moses, we learn, of course, humility. From Zelophehad's daughters, we learn that it's okay to question authority. From Esther, we learn patience and then when to pounce and get done what needs to get done. From Herzl, we learned Im tirtzu enzo agada, that if you wish it, it is no dream. From Golda Meir, we learned what it meant to live through ambiguous times when the state of Israel's very existence was at stake, especially during the Yom Kippur War. From Rabbi Akiva, going back, we learn when it's permissible to die al Kiddush Hashem for a cause that is greater than ourselves. And from my favorite, well, they're all my favorite, our archetype Nachshon ben Aminadav. Mostly it's the name that makes him my favorite. We learn what it means to take that first step toward liberation. My friends, these are not unprecedented times. These times have happened over and over and over again through the prism of Jewish memory. And we thank God for our Torah and the archetypes we have to remind us that we are never alone. I learned earlier this year from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs the idea of the very essence of what it means to be a Jewish community, in that we learn how to survive within this unique paradox of Jewish existence. Between the seen and the unseen, the known and the unknown, the humble and the not so humble, the painful and the joyful, the blessing and the curse, all of which we learn from Jewish memory. And yet within the very essence of being Jewish, we recognize one key principle which has existed throughout the millennia, and this is that before God ever brings a sickness such as a pandemic to the world, Hikdim HaKadosh Baruch Hu leRefuah leMekah, that God brings the cure first. Before God brings sickness to the world, God provides the cure. God knew that the day would come when Jews might suffer exile and dispersion, that there would be dark times that would scatter them to the winds to the ends of the earth, that they would no longer be able to come together in a mishkan or a mikdash, in a temple in Jerusalem, and even today in a temple in their own community. God knew that they would no longer have a land, no longer have a home. So God says, even so, however dispersed you are, however alone you are, however isolated you are, you will still have a sanctuary. But it will be a different sanctuary. It won't exist in time or in space. It won't exist in space, but in time. The sanctuary is called the Kehilah, the community. It will happen not because you are together physically in one place, we learn, but spiritually you'll be together all at the same time because you will be focused. That is what Jewish memory provides. And so it happened, uniquely to Jews among all other people. No other people has ever experienced anything like Jewish memory, that we were dispersed around the world, and yet our ancestors saw themselves and were seen by others as Am Israel, Am Echad, as the nation of Israel, as one nation. I would suggest that Jewish survival has been inseparably linked to Jewish memory. And Jewish memory has been inseparably linked to the idea that we do that which is counterintuitive at times. As counterintuitive as the thought of God creating the cure before the illness, we too understand this inseparable link and live it in ways that we don't always recognize it. This idea that we do that which is counterintuitive during times of our greatest joy and most spiritually debilitating suffering, that we as Jews not only accept both ideas simultaneously, but we gather strength by tolerating the ambiguities between one and another and the paradoxes of life itself. Back in mid-March, when it became clear to us that the world was turning upside down and we would not be able to gather here in our Mishkan, in our sanctuary, we jumped into action. The Torah became the centerpiece of our community. And our building of a virtual Mishkan became our communal antiseptic. Through Torah, study, praying, gathering, learning, and most of all, through your participation as a Kehilah, as a community, we became closer. We inspired each other. We became the cure for the pandemic, the antithesis of the disease itself. A few fun facts. Within the first 2.5 months, CBI, Congregation Beth Israel, offered 100 online classes, check-ins, services, and learning sessions just within the first 50 days. Guess how many YouTube views we have had since March? 22,000 YouTube views since the beginning of the pandemic. People who have tuned in both here and abroad to see Shabbat services, or a lunch and learn, or a coffee talk, or a singing with the cantor. Actually, this didn't include singing with cantor, I'm sorry. The 22,000 did not, yes, it would be closer to 35,000. He says with great humility. That 22,000, by the way, does not include the preschool and religious school programming, which would probably take it up another 10,000. We've had thousands of views on Facebook. Thousands of participants for preschool, religious school, Mayan, and Camp Stein, Havdalahs and services and check-ins and activities. Our cantor, every single day from mid-March through mid-May, had a half an hour singing session with our preschoolers. Rabbi Mason Barkin, every single Thursday, has had coffee talk with a group of lovely people to get them lifted up a little bit and connected. We've had B'nai Mitzvah, we've had confirmation, we've had weddings, and yes, we've had funerals with tripods and cell phones set up so everyone who wanted to be there could be there. This is the cure. Judaism is filled with times that may feel counterintuitive to the events taking place, and I acknowledge that. The events taking place around us and within ourselves, as if we are in conflict with the spirit of the times we share. It's even a little bit strange being here today on Rosh Hashanah. Wonderful to be in our synagogue, in our home mikdash, and beautiful to, for the first time in 6 months, have people here and so many at home. But there's something that just feels strange, bizarre. We remember, if you think about it, this is a very Jewish idea, to do that which feels antithetical to the spirit of the moment. Think about it. We remember our dead during times of celebration. We recite Yizkor during Sukkot and Passover and Shavuot, times of great rejoicing and celebration. That's so very Jewish. We pray for God to bless those in need of healing at times when we celebrate joy. That may feel counterintuitive. And today we celebrate the creation of the world and acknowledge with the heaviest of hearts that very close to 200,000 people have died in our country alone from coronavirus. Counterintuitive to celebrate creation while marking such unbelievable death. So it is not antithetical to suffering, illness, and pain to acknowledge that the Jewish heart beats. The euphoria we feel during our Torah study, and our classes, and our book clubs, and our coffee talks, and our communal worship, in the places where the Torah abides, reminds us that we are still here as part of a 100-year-old congregation, a mikdash me'at where Jews experience true meeting and have done so for thousands of years, my friends, both here and at home. Hineni. We are here. And because of our dedication and our love, our hope, and the lessons that we have learned from our Jewish archetypes, whose examples weave a Jewish life for us and our children and our grandchildren, we will mark this occasion of love for each other and hope for the future with our Torah, the center, the focal point of our community. It may feel antithetical to show honor and love and thanks to God when we are filled with conflicting feelings of loss and hopelessness and even some anger, but our archetypes told us and taught us that God can tolerate the anger from the Jewish heart. It is also a very Jewish thing, in times especially like these, to maybe counterintuitively give thanks to God, doing so by offering Torah to the next generation. Even in a pandemic with fires scorching the entire western United States and horrific hurricane floods in the southeast, with political and social tensions that I haven't experienced in my lifetime and probably you haven't in a generation or more, what a Jew thinks to say, our lives are bound to something bigger, something filled with meaning and insight and love. And most of all, the boundless possibilities towards seeking the divine and connecting with each other in real, true, and loving commitment to something that is greater than ourselves. This, my friends, is where we will find the cure to what ails us. It always has. Rabbi Leo Baeck is considered to be one of the great liberal Jewish thinkers of the 20th century. His life represented the ideal survivor, the ideal of survival. For his birth in Germany, for the years that he spent in Theresienstadt's concentration camp, to his life dedicated as an exemplar of modern Jewish thought, of our reform movement in Germany, Baeck is another archetype for us. For he knew what it meant to keep Jewish learning at the core of our existence and even survival. In an intellectual portrait of Baeck, Rabbi Albert Friedlander of Great Britain spoke of Leo Baeck at Theresian. and he wrote the following: metals are heated in the furnace to the point where all foreign matter is melted away, where only the essence remains. Placed into the fiery hell of the concentration camp, Beck's essence revealed itself, for he was a rabbi. The sick had to be comforted. The dying had to be attended to. Death needed the dignity of ritual, and the living had to be taught. Wild beasts in uniform roamed the streets of Terezin, guarded its gates, and tried to stamp out the humanity still flickering in the thin gray faces of the prisoners. Couldn't succeed. For late at night, crowded together tightly in a small barrack hall, which could not contain them all, the prisoners sacrificed vital hours of rest in order to listen to Rabbi Leo Beck. And there must have been many present who wondered, why are we listening to this? And yet they knew. In the crowded prison hall, there existed the awareness that the very act of listening constituted a rebellion, an uprising against the inhumanity of their captors, an assertion of their own humanity. And so they listened to Leo Beck, not because he was a scholar enabling them to pose as civilized people, but because he was their rabbi who taught them that their humanity need not be extinguished. Beck was the teacher of Terezin. When the moment came that the German Jewish community was called upon to choose its leaders during this horrific time of Hitler, they chose Rabbi Leo Beck. They felt that this time of need required a teacher who drew his full strength out of living his belief in God, out of his impassioned love for the Jewish people. This has not been the Shoah. Thank God we are the luckiest Jews in the history of the world to live in a country and in a place where we are not only free, but where we have roofs over our heads and meals throughout the day. But it is the Torah, the tens of thousands of you who have participated in study and learning and sharing and creating a Kehilah Kedoshah, that has been the cure that God created before this illness. And for all of these reasons and so many more, we will give thanks to God on this Yom HaZikaron, on this day of remembrance, whether we are ambivalent or happy or sad, or whether we do so with a sense of rebellion too. In this most profound sense, we are the reason God created us. And on this 5,781st day of remembrance, let us not forget that we are the cure. And so this year, we had planned to celebrate our centennial, our 100th anniversary, which was going to be kicked off today. For 1920, a group of pioneering Jews founded Congregation Beth Israel. In place of that celebration, which will be postponed just by 1 year, God willing, we thought it proper to do something righteous. And so we will be creating and implementing the Centennial Torah Project this year. We will be writing a new Torah to give thanks to God for the gift of Torah, to show our archetypes that we can learn from them and live through their lives in times of difficulty and pain. Within this next month, by the beginning of November at the latest, everyone in the congregation will receive information so that you, no matter what amount, can make an offering, a hoda'ah, a sacrifice of thanksgiving that is counterintuitive to what it is that you may be feeling right now, because it's a very Jewish thing to do. And it will give you the opportunity to become part of the holy process of writing a Sefer Torah. So in the next few weeks, we pray that you will look for that and read through it as we finish up the last pieces of picking our Shofar in Israel and deciding our year-long celebration and learning and dedication next Rosh Hashanah of our 100-year Torah. May our new Torah, dedicated to the next century of students of Torah, bring them the same meaning that it has brought us these last months. Let it raise their spirits as it has raised the spirits of Congregation Beth Israel for 100 years. May our new Torah bring them joy, and indeed, in times of suffering and darkness, may it act as a cure for whatever ails them, ailments of mind, body, and spirit, from which they, God forbid, may suffer. But we know from our archetypes of Torah have suffered for 4,000 years. And may they, the generations to come, look back at the memory of this time and in this place and look favorably upon us for surviving these dark times through Or HaTorah, through the light of Torah. Amen.
Yasher Koach, and thank you, Rabbi Khan. With those words of Torah resonating within us, we turn to page 233 and 232, where we find Birkat HaGomel. This is a prayer that is traditionally recited for those who have been through some kind of trauma, whether it is the recovery from a difficult illness, surviving after an accident, or going through something life-shaking. So today we're going to all stand together because we've all been through, we are going through a difficult, traumatic moment, both those of you here in this space right now, those of you who are with us in virtual space right now. We invite you to take some time for thanks. Not just any thanks, for profound thanks that we are here to greet this year. In the midst of the congregation, we honor all of us who have come through this difficult time of challenge, difficulty, and danger. Today, we celebrate our survival. Together, we give thanks for the resilience of our bodies, for the strength of our human spirits, for the precious gift of our lives experienced with new intensity when our lives have been at risk. On page 233, we see first the prayer for the individual, which we can all recite together, but for ourselves. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hagomel l'chayavim tovot shagamlani kol tov. Blessed are you, our God, eternal. Your majesty fills the universe. Through your generosity, I have experienced your goodness. Then in the middle of the page, we respond to one another where it says for both, Amen. Mi shegamolchem kol tov, together, hu yigmolchem kol tov, Selah. May the source of goodness bring us all goodness at all times. You may be seated as we turn now to the chanting of Torah.
It is our tradition hold on one second. First of all, if you're following along, either here or at home, we're going to be chanting from the Akedat Yitzchak, from the Binding of Isaac, which can be found on page 238. Cantor will be beginning on verse 9, toward the bottom of the page. And it is our tradition at Congregation Beth Israel on Rosh Hashanah morning to present the Amidah Award for the volunteer man or woman of the year for Congregation Beth Israel, and then to offer and invite them to recite the Aliyah. Cantor is now going to be standing in the place of the recipient, Joe Luber. Joe Luber. No one doesn't know Joe Luber. Joe Luber was unanimously selected to receive this year's Amidah Award for CBI Volunteer of the Year. His lovely wife, Sharon, and Joe have been members of Congregation Beth Israel since 2012. Their beautiful children, Suzanne and Omar Trevino, and grandchildren, Kehilah and Benjamin, have been, of course, active and dedicated parts of our CBI family life as well. Truthfully, there is nothing that Joe has not done as part of Congregation Beth Israel life as a volunteer. He walks by the building, he sees a shingle at an angle that it shouldn't be at. He calls Robin and tells her. Often he'll call the person to fix it before he even tells Robin. He has managed to enable us to creatively and ethically balance the books during a pandemic, which can be difficult to do, as you can imagine. Joe has managed our finances, our budget. Joe has done land appraisals, daily maintenance. He's the first one to greet new members when we used to have a nosh before services, and the last one to leave the room at the end of the oneg, always mindful to introduce those who are new members to the Shabbat group to make sure they have dinner to go to after services. Sharon is very much responsible for that as well. Joe has the heart and the mind and defines what it means to be a mensch. So he has served as a member of our board, of secretary of our board, and now treasurer of our board of directors. And I am so grateful on behalf of all of us, on behalf of the board of directors, to present in his stead cantor, Joe Luber, with the Amidah Award for the CBI Volunteer of the Year. And he will receive this later on this week. Our plaque reads, Tikkun Olam, you are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. Again, presented to Joe Luber, Amidah Award recipient, 5780 for last year. And may he and his family continue to go from strength to strength. And let us all say Mazel Tov, Joe. Mazel Tov, Joe! And Sharon. I'm not going to actually give it to you.
But if Joe and Sharon, if you are watching, which I know you are, I'm going to invite you to sing the blessings over the Torah with me so that you can have your honorary aliyah with all of us here. 1, 2, 3. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach, Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed, Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim, venatan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Vayavo el hamakom asher amalo haElohim, vayiven sham Avraham et hamizbeach, vayaroch et haitzim, vayakod et Yitzchak beno, vayasem oto al hamizbeach mimala etzim, vayishlach Avraham et yado, vayikach et hamachelet lishchot et beno, vayikra elav malach Adonai min hashamayim, vayomer Avraham Avraham, vayomer hineni, vayomer al tishlach yadecha el hanar, ve'al taslo me'umati, ki yireh Elohim ata, ve'lo chasachta et binecha et yechidcha mimeni. Baruch
ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
We take a moment now to lift and redress the Torah. Please stand.
Vezot haTorah asher sa Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah tziva lanu Moshe, Torah tziva lanu Moshe, Torah tziva lanu Moshe, Torah tziva lanu Moshe, Torah tziva lanu Moshe.
Page 276. My mistake. Please be seated. That was a little bit of a cue change from me. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to just take a moment to disinfect the bima. More product placement for the congregation. We're going to let that sit for just 1 minute. I'll let you touch the microphone when you're ready. It's a pleasure to call the president of our board of directors, Julie Heimovich, to wish you a Shana Tova and to share greetings, as it were, on behalf of the board of directors. You need to push the mic.
Do you need this one?
My big mouth wasn't enough. Let's start over. How have the Jewish people survived for millennia? We have experienced trauma, extensive trauma, yet we have survived. We have had to recover and pivot, finding our way toward creating alternatives to keep our vital Jewish life sustainable. The answer to how we have survived may be found in one word: resilience. I like to think of resilience as a balanced scale. On the left side of the scale are negative experiences, and on the right, positive experiences. The point where the scale balances is called the fulcrum. The fulcrum represents resilience. In the wake of COVID-19, we have had to find our fulcrum at CBI. This has been challenging. For some of us, the pandemic provided an unexpected opportunity to pause, spend more time with our children, go for walks, or work from home in our pajamas. For others, as Rabbi Mason Bargan alluded to last evening, it's been a time of loss, anxiety, fear, and isolation. At times, there's been a mix of both loss and opportunity. Our board of directors, clergy, and senior staff work together in recognition of our need to pivot in order to grow deeper in our partnership with each other, to strengthen our relationships as a community, and enhance membership engagement. Elie Wiesel of blessed memory stated, "Think higher, feel deeper." These words truly resonate as we look ahead and welcome the Jewish New Year, 5781. While the pandemic precludes us from being physically together to pray, thanks to modern technology, we are all spiritually together. Rosh Hashanah begins a time in which we reflect on the past year and renew our spiritual connection. Additionally, many of us renew our commitment to ourselves, our families, friends, synagogue, and community. As Rabbi Khan shared, since March of 2020, there has been more engagement by our members, in addition to many Jews throughout North America who have tuned into our services and programs, as our synagogue, beyond its actual physical structure, has become a place where we have all connected to something larger than ourselves. We connected to our CBI community. It isn't only the remarkable programming, but rather the ability for us to be vulnerable, patient, and kind with each other throughout these months of physical distancing. Those are the vehicles leading our congregants to the relationships that have formed as a result of us finding that fulcrum, that resilience. Simply put, CBI has been able to be resilient due to the relationships and not fee-for-service or pay-per-play transactions. Now more than ever, taking care of one another is essential. CBI is a family, here to help each other celebrate life cycle events such as Britay, baby namings, B'nai Mitzvot, graduations, weddings, albeit virtually for now. Rabbi Albert Plotkin of blessed memory wrote the following in 1970 as CPI celebrated its Jubilee year. He charged our synagogue with these words: "May we kindle the light of hope and faith and awaken our hopes and visions to grow deeper in our Judaism, wiser in our tradition, and more meaningful in our service." As we enter our 100th year in the uncertainty of a pandemic, I believe Rabbi Plotkin would be proud of all of us. And yet, we have much more work to do as we continue to look ahead to our future. While our celebration of our centennial anniversary has been postponed, there is no better gift than to become more involved in your CBI family, sharing your love for CBI with your unaffiliated friends, or reaching out to either myself, any member of the board, our clergy, or professional staff, which includes our amazing Chief Communal and Executive Officer, Robin Roeder, if you would like to serve on any of our vibrant committees, or join us in planning meaningful programs and projects in the coming year. Rosh Hashanah begins the process whereby we are given the gift of a new year and an opportunity for new beginnings, even in times of uncertainty. There is no doubt in my mind that we will come out of this pandemic a stronger and more resilient community, building more meaningful and deeper relationships because we are CBI. On behalf of the Board of Directors, and together with my husband Stephen and our children, Stephanie, Hannah, Hallie, David, and Evan, I wish each of you a Shana Tova Umetuka.
We are going to be, in a moment, sounding shofar and welcoming Max Drockler as our shofar sounder. Out of sensitivity to the spreading of droplets, we didn't think it would be appropriate to actually have the shofar in the room with us. So Max will be sounding the shofar from this hallway, facing down the hallway, as we like to say, as Rabbi Mason Barkin likes to say, out of an abundance of caution.
I like caution.
That's your thing. I love it. You're a mom. I'm a guy. I don't do abundance of caution. But out of an abundance of caution, we're so happy Max is here. Plus, he's about a foot taller than he was last year. And so we'll be returning.
Is he over there?
He is.
He is.
He's ready.
That's what I hear.
Oh, hey. You look great, bud.
Well, there you are. Okay, go back in the hallway. So we are going to turn in our Sidurim to page 276, and together, let's please stand.
Hallelujah, et Shem Adonai, ki nizgav shemo levado, hodo al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem keren leyamo, Kehilah lechol chasitav, livene עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומכיך מאושר דרכיך דרכי נועם בכל נתיבותיך שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדש חדש ימינו חדש ימינו כקדם.
And now we turn back in our Machzorim to page 202 for our Shofar service.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל. שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך
Page 206 for the blessings over our shofar.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
The shofar calls can be found on page 284.
Tekiah, Shvarim Trua, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shvarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Trua, Kehilah Kedoshah. Yasher koach.
Please be seated.
Well, Shana Tova, everyone. Everyone and everyone. We have made it through our first in-person service in a very long time, and I think it feels pretty good, even as a cautious person. So thank you for those of us who are here. Thank you for those of us who are not here. A few announcements. Services for families, this is really geared towards like the 8 and under, maybe 7 and under crowd, will be live via Zoom this afternoon at 3:30 p.m. So check your email for the link. By the way, you don't have to be a child to join us. Anyone is welcome, young and young at heart. Then following that, we are having our first ever Rosh Hashanah Seder and Havdalah, also live on Zoom, tonight at 5:15 p.m. If you haven't checked out the Rosh Hashanah Haggadah for all of the things that you will need, there's a little grocery list in there. So either get them or don't, but join us either way. And again, once again, the links for everything are on the website and in your email. We will be having our second day Rosh Hashanah service tomorrow at 10 a.m. That one will be live streamed, so please all join us tomorrow on the live stream. If you have not done so already, please pick up your New Year's gift and your machzors that you can use now for Yom Kippur or tomorrow morning for our second day service. They are available for pickup here at CBI during business hours. There are tons of items in there, including a separate box for those of you with younger children. And we're going to be using the items from the boxes during our children's service at 3:30. So if you've got little ones, make sure you have that box accessible. Today we'll be using the one for Rosh Hashanah, because that's today. Since Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbat, don't forget to let us know if you've earned a sticker for B'nai Mitzvah credit by watching and participating in this service. You can send us a note. We'll believe you. You could take a selfie. You could have someone take a picture. We'll believe you even more if you do that. Don't forget to email cbicares@cbiaz.org. If you are facing a physical, emotional, or spiritual need, or of course, you can always call the office and reach us directly. And as Rabbi Kahn likes to remind us, you have our cell phone numbers. Just let us know if you need us. We are here for you. But we don't know unless you tell us. So make sure you tell us. Then on Saturday, September 26th, that is Shabbat Shuvah. It's the Shabbat in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We're doing something a little bit different this year. We want everyone to have the chance to be present in this space, whether or not you are comfortable being here in a group or not. So we will be opening our Ark for personal visits, prayers, and meditations for CBI members. All you need to do is reserve some time on the website. So please make your reservation. We will provide readings and meditations for you. Or of course, just like always, you can take that time for yourself, accessing the prayers of your heart. So please make sure to make a reservation for that special time, either in here or in the Roth Family Chapel. Our annual Kever Avot service will be held at our Beth Israel Cemetery, both in person, of course with distancing and with masks. We'll be outside and spread out, and also on YouTube Live, Sunday, September 27th at 9:30 a.m. Last but not least, for those of you who are here in this space with us, we will be exiting from the back of the room. So when we fit, just like on an airplane, right? No, opposite. opposite of an airplane. We are exiting from the back of the room to the front. So keep an eye on Robin Roeder over here. She will let you know when. Jason Brownowitz, you help him with that. He's right back there. Hi, Jason. So please keep an eye on them, and they will help us exit distantly and officially and spiritually. For those of you at home, when you click off the live stream, send a text or give a call or a FaceTime to a friend, because the weirdest thing about doing all this online stuff is when you sign off and then you're alone. So make sure you give yourself some kind of oneg, schmooze experience, even when you sign off. Shana Tova.
One quick thing to add on to the announcements. We have a tendency, and it's part of our culture, for people to come up to the bima to wish us Shana Tova, Shabbat Shalom. We won't be doing that today. If you see Rabbi Mason Barkin and me and Julie and Jackie leaving the bima immediately after services, we're not being rude.
It's not personal.
We're not being rude. We're just,
We
playing
just
it
want to
safe.
protect you. So
This is for the long haul. We're wanting everyone to be here for next Rosh Hashanah. So, but Robin, and as Rabbi Mason Barkin said, Robin and Jason will help you exit. We're gonna leave the bima, but we love you all, and it's been great seeing you. I can't even tell you how great it's been.
it's so great. And of course, even as it is so good to see everyone that we are able to be in person with at our holiday times, it becomes even more apparent those who are not with us, those who have died in recent days, those who have died at this time in years past, those who we remember with their recipes and their stories of high holy days before. So with that in mind, we turn to Words of Kaddish, page 292. I want to remind you that we didn't skip Aleinu. We did the great Aleinu already just a moment ago on page 202. Now we turn to Kaddish, page 292. It is with deep sympathy that we note the passing of the following people who were recently laid to their eternal rest. We remember Ed Baer. We remember Toby Lisker Lintz. We remember those of our congregational family whose yahrzeits occur this week. We remember Rhoda Andrews, Morris Baker, Rose Carol Brown, Edward Crown, Norman Deitch, Molly Friedlander, Steve Friedman, Cecilia Garlikov, Esther Geller, Rowena Gerber, Leanne Gittel, Louis Goldstein, Leonard Haas, Matthew Bryan Hardy, Sherry Herbig, Harry Herman, Saul F. Keaty, Laverne Kogan, Samuel Korek, Blanche D. Kramer, Marshall B. Kubelski, Sarah Kupfer, Leon Leonson, Harold Lorber, Morris Liff, Annette Lyon, Kate Mizak, Pearl Myers, Jay Obedine, Charles Perlman, Mildred Ragazzino, Warren Silver, Rose Silverstein, Joseph Spector, Ralph Tannenbaum, Otto A. Wolf, Sidney Zifrin. If you are remembering someone today and you would like to stand and share their name, if you are here in person, I invite you to stand at this time. If there's someone you are remembering and you are with us virtually, now is the time to put their name into the chat feature on YouTube Live. Is there anyone here today who's remembering someone? Let's all stand together for Words of Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalau v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yit hadar, v'yit ale, v'yit halal, shemei de kudasha barechu, le'ela u'le'e mukol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all those who are in mourning and comfort to all who are bereaved as we say together, amen.
Let's join together in a prayer. In a prayer for peace.
Ose shalom, shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'ol kol Yisrael, ve'yimeru amen. Ose shalom, shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'ol kol Yisrael, ve'yimeru amen. Uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, amen. Let's all join together. Ose shalom, shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, amen.
Yehi ratzon lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'lei avotenu v'imotenu, shitchadesh aleinu, shana tova u'metuka. Our God and God of our ancestors, eternal God of all generations, may your presence in our lives this new year renew our spirits and renew our strength. May it be a good year. May it be a sweet year. And on that note, let us begin with the sweetness of the wine with Kiddush and Hamotzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. L'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
B'te'avot.
B'te'avot.
Shana Tova, Shabbat Shalom.
Shana Tova, Shabbat Shalom.
Shana
Safe, be
Tova.
healthy, all good things.
Our ushers will help escort you from the sanctuary. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.